National Association of Letter Carriers, ballots for the tentative agreement were originally due back on January 13th. That is on Monday. The ballot committee announced over the break that they are extending the deadline.
Which side are you on? Which side are you on?
Let's jump into Last Week in Southern Labor. This is a segment that we do every single week where we go over what workers in the U.S. South and the American colonies were up to. Here's what they were up to from December the 20th to January 10th. In new union campaigns, also just a reminder, this segment is going to be truncated. The full content will be in the newsletter. You can subscribe to the newsletter at tvlr.fm. In new union campaigns, 618 workers at Blue Oval SK in Glendale, Kentucky, filed a petition to hold a union election with the United Auto Workers, UAW. This is a big deal, folks. Blue Oval is an EV joint venture with Ford. 4,300 workers at an Amazon warehouse, RDU1, in Garner, North Carolina, filed a petition to hold a union election with Carolina Amazonians United for Solidarity and Empowerment. Cause, an independent union that has been organizing in that warehouse for approximately 2 or 3 years. Workers likely pushed by their employer filed a petition to decertify the International Union of Operating Engineers, IUOE Local 312, as the union representing 40 workers at APAC Alabama Birmingham in Birmingham, Alabama. 350 workers at Unify, an airline ground support shuttle bus company owned in part by Delta in Atlanta, Georgia, filed a petition to hold a union election with the National Association of Government Employees, NAGE, which is an SEIU affiliate. The Transport Workers Union of America, TWU, appears to be trying to raid a unit of 43 workers at Prime Flight Aviation Services in Orlando, Florida, who are currently represented by the Union of Service Workers Local 74, which is an affiliate of the International Union of Journeymen and Allied Trades, which is, I think, kind of a sketchy organization, as I recall. So the raid is probably fine. Usually not a fan of raids. This time, probably okay. Workers likely pushed by their employer and with help from the odious National Right to Work Foundation, filed a petition to decertify the International Alliance of Theatrical and Stage Employees, IATSE, as the union representing 14 workers at Neuro Tour Physical Therapy in Marietta, Georgia. In campaign updates, union election results, workers at several Starbucks locations across the South voted to unionize with Starbucks Workers United over the last few weeks. 22 workers in Wilkesboro, North Carolina, voted 16-1. 18 workers at Apex, North Carolina, voted unanimously. 20 workers in Denton, Texas, voted 14-3, and 25 workers in Crossroads, Texas, voted 17-2. 27 staff for the Southwest Airline Pilots Association, SWAPA, in Dallas, Texas, voted 21-1 in favor of unionization with the SWAPA Staff Association. 135 workers at Hoganay's Corporation in Gallatin, Tennessee, voted 38-89 against unionization with the United Steelworkers, USW. 77 workers at Calcasio Refining Company in Lake Charles, Louisiana, voted 21-53 against unionization with IUOE Local 407. 90 workers at OQ Chemicals in Bay City, Texas, voted 43-41 in favor of unionization with IUOE Local 564. 38 workers at Intelitex in Augusta, Georgia, voted 15-4 in favor of unionization with the Communication Workers of America's Industrial Division, IUE-CWA. 117 workers at Conco in Louisville, Kentucky, voted 81-20 in favor of maintaining the USW Local 1693-06 as their union in a decertification election. And 149 workers at First Student in Zachary, Louisiana, voted 65-9 in favor of unionization with the Amalgamated Transit Union, ATU Local 1546. In settlements, grievances, and unfair labor practices, Starbucks Workers United has filed 34 complaints against the company in the last week. Josh Idelson reports for Bloomberg that this signals rising tensions between the company and the union after what appeared to be a warming relationship only a few months ago. The NLRB found that Woodford Reserve Distillery in Versailles, Kentucky, violated the National Labor Relations Act by granting benefits to employees in order to discourage them from voting for union representation. Because workers showed majority support for unionization prior to the company's violations of the law, even though the election was not in favor of unionization, the NLRB has set aside the election results and is ordering the company to bargain with the union, the Teamsters Local 651. This is only the second CMEX bargaining order since the landmark decision was issued in 2023. In strikes and bargaining updates, the Loudoun County Transit Workers, unionized with ATU Local 689, finally reached an agreement on a new contract with county contractor Keolis. Yesterday, workers approved and ratified the contract with a 92% vote. Over 430 drivers, warehouse workers, and mechanics represented by Teamsters Local 988 have voted overwhelmingly to authorize a strike after Cisco failed to present an acceptable offer. The International Longshoremen's Association, ILA, announced with the U.S. Maritime Alliance, USMX, that they reached a full tentative agreement ahead of the January 15th contract expiration. The contract was extended until that date following a 3-day strike last year that was called off following a tentative agreement on wages to negotiate automation language. The union said they have maintained their automation protections over the 6-year period of the contract, along with a 62% pay increase. The union says that Trump's public support was critical. The tentative agreement now goes to the membership for approval. Costco walked out of bargaining with the Teamsters over a new national agreement last week. The Teamsters say the company has rejected all of their economic proposals, even though the company had record-breaking profits in 2024, $7.4 billion to be precise. The contract expires on January 31st. It is probably not a coincidence that Costco has been making a show about not canceling its DEI programs, probably in a bid to save face in anticipation of a strike and public relations fiasco by the Teamsters. Teamsters Local 991 members at Republic Services in Brewton, Alabama, unanimously ratified a new contract containing a $5.50 per hour raise over the 5-year agreement, with an additional paid holiday and more vacation time. GM and Ford both posted their best annual U.S. sales since 2019, making difficult Stellantis' attempt to claim that, quote, market conditions are the cause for their lack of investment and layoffs, and also putting a hole in the argument that strong union contracts make businesses unprofitable. IATSE has launched a second annual Game Workers survey. If you are a game worker, if you work on video games, you can fill out their survey about rates and working conditions on gameworkers.org. CWA is attacking AT&T's plans to discontinue DSL service in rural parts of the country while also announcing a $40 billion stock buyback and dividend plan to enrich shareholders. The union also points out that while AT&T CEO is saying that if Trump gives the company tax cuts, they will invest more, the company said the same thing in 2017, but following Trump's first set of tax cuts, the company, instead of doing what they said they would do, reduced capital investments, cut tens of thousands of jobs, and announced plans to spend $30 billion on stock buybacks. There was an explosion at a RWDSU-represented Tyson's plant in Camilla, Georgia over the break. One worker ended up dying. RWDSU said in a statement that they are working with local authorities and are demanding a full investigation.
Hey, 5 seconds, just wanted to say that this is only possible because of our donors. If you want to see more of this, then consider donating yourself at tvlr.fm/donate.
In political and legislative news, last November, Idelson reported that the Teamsters were working with Josh Hawley to develop a more GOP-friendly version of the PRO Act. Hawley's office has been circulating what appears to be the culmination of those efforts, titled, quote, a pro-worker framework for the 119th Congress, which calls for holding employers like Amazon, specifically named, accountable for unsafe work speeds, expediting union elections, supporting first union contracts, and boosting penalties for violations of the National Labor Relations Act. It's not the PRO Act, but all actually unambiguously good things, which means that this is almost certainly dead on arrival in the current Congress. Elon Musk is walking back claims that he could cut $2 trillion from the federal budget, which is obvious to anyone who isn't a complete baby brain. In other backtracking news, Donald Trump is floating the idea to buy ships from other countries instead of buying American-made ships because we can't do it here, he says. Representative Donald Norcross released a statement calling on Trump to keep his Buy American pledge and support appropriations accordingly. An Alabama mom was among those injured in the New Orleans terrorist attack when she asked her employer, Amazon, for time off to take care of the bullet lodged in her foot. Amazon declined. They only gave her leave after a public backlash. Joe Biden put the final nail in the coffin of Nippon's attempt to purchase U.S. steel, as expected. The United Steelworkers and the Transportation Trades Department of the AFL-CIO applauded the move. Missouri's minimum wage increased on January 1st. The change will raise wages for nearly 440,000 Missouri workers, injecting over $365 million into the state's economy. 1 in 5 Missouri children live in a household that will see an increase in earnings. Under Ronald Reagan, Congress passed amendments to Social Security that cut benefits for some public sector workers like teachers and firefighters. Congress passed, and last week Joe Biden signed the Social Security Fairness Act, which repealed these unfair punishments for public service, ensuring that teachers and other public workers are entitled to the same Social Security benefits as other workers. Despite the legislation being bipartisan, both of Alabama's senators voted against. The Kroger-Albertsons merger was blocked in a huge win for labor. To lick wounds for investors, however, Kroger announced a $7.5 billion stock buyback program. The United Food and Commercial Workers, UFCW, which represents workers at Kroger, said that for the same amount of money, the company could remodel literally every single store or build 280 new ones. The union is calling on the CEO to resign. In internal union affairs, the Teamsters convened a meeting in Atlanta last week to discuss technology at UPS. The Service Employees International Union, SEIU, which disaffiliated from the AFL-CIO in 2005, has finally rejoined the Federation 20 years later, which they announced at the AFL-CIO's annual MLK Civil and Human Rights Conference last week. In statements about the move, the AFL-CIO and SEIU are characterizing the move as preparation for an offensive organizing push, but the media reaction has been to characterize this as a defensive move in preparation for attacks from the incoming administration. Fires are ravaging Los Angeles. The Los Angeles Federation of Labor has a form that you can fill out along with a list of other resources if you are local and need support, and also a donation portal if you would like to donate to support their mutual aid efforts during the tragedy. The National Association of Letter Carriers ballots for the tentative agreement were originally due back on January 13th. That is on Monday. The ballot committee announced over the break that they are extending the deadline to January 27th. That's it for our union updates. If we missed anything, let us know at tvlr.fm/contact, and we will try to include it in next week's roundup. You just saw a clip from the Valley Labor Report. We are live every Saturday morning from 9:30 a.m. till 12:30 p.m., and we pride ourselves on keeping all of our content free to everybody so that we can talk to as many working folks as possible. If you support the work that we're doing, you think that it's important, you think that it's good, then consider making a monthly contribution to the project, and you can do that on our website, tvlr.fm.